So, what's the topic?
The invisible threads of nature.
25th August,
11 a.m. onwards. Yes, Acharya Auditorium.
come discover what connects us to nature.
Hey, can you see a connection between a tree and you?
What? A tree and you?
Yes, the most interesting part. That's what we're gonna discover.
Okay, then what are these invisible connections?
Well, that's what we're gonna discover.
Where?
And special guest talk by Dr. Ganeshaiah.
Dr. K.N. Ganeshaiah, the fiction novelist?
Yeah, the scientist.
So, what's the topic?
The invisible threads of nature.
25th August,
11 a.m. onwards. Yes, Acharya Auditorium.
come discover what connects us to nature.
Check. Good morning to everyone present here. I am M. Yogeshwaran, third year student from Alva's College of Naturopathy and Yogic Sciences. And it's my privilege to be your master of ceremony for today's edition of Rostrum. There are stories that entertain us, and there are stories that inspire us. And then there are stories that quietly change the way we look at the world. Today, Rostrum invites us into such story, a story written in books, but in forest, rivers, soil, species, and the delicate relationship that bind them together. Our theme for today, the invisible threads of nature, the reins of ecosystem, reminds us the nature does not function as isolated species. Every living organism is connected by relationship we may not also always see, yet our lives depend upon them. And perhaps the most fascinating question is these invisible threads holds nature together? What happens when we begin to pull at them? Today, we have the privilege of exploring the question that a distinguished personality whose work and wisdom invite us to look deeper into the natural world. Let's start the program in a while. Ladies and gentlemen, I now request everyone to rise and welcome them with a warm and resounding round of applause. Request our honorable dignitaries to kindly take their seat on us. Before we proceed, I would like to take you on a journey through the Rostrum. Every edition of Rostrum brings with it new story, a story that challenges us, moves us, and makes us look at the world just like it is. This is the sixth Rostrum in the walk of the year, which we begin with the Honorable Member of Parliament, Ms. Swaraj, delivered a powerful message to the youth of our nation by inaugurating this when we welcome the young and dynamic entrepreneur, Mr. Alva, proud source of talent, and was treated all over India and travel imagination and imagination. And then come Lieutenant Colonel Ankita Srivatsava, an army veteran who herself by conquering the most vivacious movement titled at Gladiators, showcasing an inspiring journey from olive grain to beauty queen. Dr. R.K. Nair, the main co-king. And then we had Miss Namrata Mohan, famously known as Temple. We, the Rostrum, believes that every student deserves this opportunity to hear great minds, discover their own voice, and participate in conversation that truly matter. Over the years, this stage has been graced by remarkable personalities who have contributed to science, leadership, public service, education, space exploration, economics, and society. Among them are Dr. Ravi N. Margashyam, co-chair for Ground Society, Review Panel NASA, Shri Guru Gaur Paul Das, Dr. Mani Shankar Iyer, Dr. Subramanian Swami, and Dr. A.S. Kiran Kumar, Dr. R. Vaityanathan, Padma Shri Dr. Dinesh Singh, Justice Santosh Hegde, and Padma Bhushan Dr. B.N. Suresh. And today, another distinguished name is being added at this remarkable journey. Distinguished dignitaries and respected guests, esteemed faculty members, and my dear students, a welcome is more than a simply an opening word or a customary gesture. It is our way of saying we are glad that you are here and we are ready to listen, and perhaps that is what makes every gathering meaningful. On behalf of the Rostrum Speakers Club, it's my honor and my privilege to warmly welcome each one of you to the special edition of the Rostrum. Today, we are privileged to have distinguished personalities with us who bring the diverse journeys, experience, and insight. I firstly welcome our chief guest, Dr. Ganeshaiah, INSA Senior Scientist, University of Agricultural Sciences, Bengaluru. Welcome you, sir. I also extend my heartfelt welcome to the Professor Dr. K.V. Ravishankar, Principal Scientist, ICAR, Indian Institute of Horticulture and Research Institute, Bangalore. And I also welcome our Managing Trustee, Mr. Vivek Alva, to this event also. And I welcome Dr. Deepa Kothari, Director, Rostrum Speakers Club. And I also welcome Dr. Ruchita, Program Coordinator of today's event. On behalf of this Rostrum Speakers Club, I extend my heartfelt welcome to all our distinguished guests, faculty members, students, and friends who has joined us to this special edition of this Rostrum. Writing, some personalities are recognized by their titles, others by their accomplishments. But only few are remembered for redefining the way we understand the world around us. It is my privilege to introduce our esteemed chief guest, Dr. K.N. Ganeshaiah, an eminent agriculture scientist, researcher, and acclaimed Kannada writer. A professor and former dean at the University of Agriculture Sciences, Bengaluru. Welcome you, sir. He has made significant contribution to plants breeding, biodiversity, and environmental sciences. His pioneering research on plant behavior, evolution, and diversity has received international recognition with over 200 scientific papers to his credit. His innovative avalanche index for measuring biodiversity and his work documenting India's rich planet wealth stand as remarkable contribution to science. But Dr. Ganeshaiah's journey goes far beyond the laboratory. Since 2005, he has carved a unique space in Kannada literature through emotions. With 13 novels, 11 short stories collections, and 11 essay collections, he has recognition including the Sahitya Academy Dattu Award and Best Science Work Award for Divya Solli. Even today, as an INSA Senior Scientist and through his podcast Times and Tides, he continues to connect scientific thought with society. And today, he brings that rare perspective to the Rostrum through a theme that could not be more relevant: the invisible threats of nature, the reins of ecosystem. Sir, we are truly honored us today. May I now request Dr. K.N. Ganeshaiah to address the gathering. Sir, the stage is yours.
Requesting Vivek sir to welcome.
I request Dr. Vivek Alva, the Managing Trustee of Alva's Education Foundation, to give a token of love. And I also welcome Dr. Sir, the stage is yours.
Reins.
ಸಿಗುತ್ತಮ್ಮ ರಿಮೋಟು? ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಹೋಗ್ಲಾ, ನಾನು ಕೆಳಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಲಾ? ಓ ಇಲ್ಲಮ್ಮ, ನನಗೆ ಯು ಕಾಂಟ್ ಬಿ ಮೈ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್. ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಕಮ್ ಡೌನ್. ಯಾ, ಇಲ್ಲ, ಇದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸಿಗುತ್ತಮ್ಮ, ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರು ಒಂದು ಲೆಂತ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಅದು ನನ್ನ ಕೈಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು. ಚೇರ್ ಆದರೆ ಆಯಿತು. ಯಾ, ಎಸ್, ದಟ್ಸ್ ಏನಪ್ಪ.
ಸರಿ, ಅದು ಬೇಡ, ಅದು ಶಿಫ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು.
Yeah. Am I audible to the end there? Yeah. Thank you very much. First of all, ಇದು ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಆಗೋದಮ್ಮ? ಯಾ ಪಿ ಪಿ ಟಿ ಮಾಡಿ. ಪಿ ಪಿ ಟಿಗೆ ಲಿಂಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಇದು? ಹಾಂ. Thank you. Is it visible to the end? Yeah? Okay. First of all, I like to now place my heartful thanks to the organizers and to the system and to the leaders who are now actually managing the whole institute here. Since morning I have been traveling through your institute. It appears it's an infinitely endless institute with such vast space and so many events and so many parts of the institute that I've been enjoying from morning to see. On my behalf, to the people who are responsible for this institute, can you give a big hand please on my behalf? I also like to thank them for another thing, for the wonderful breakfast you gave me in the morning. Again, another thanks for that. So I will be now speaking to you on these invisible threads of nature, the reins of ecosystems. I know all of you are very much aware of this meaning of what is reins, but for those who may now find it little difficult to know find the actual meaning of reins, please concentrate on this photo. You know who is there in that scene? Who is there? Lord Sun, Surya. Okay? As you know, Surya is supposed to be now riding the horses when he gets up in the morning, and he rides himself on the chariot and goes in the west, from east to west. He is supposed to control the horses of his chariot by those thin threads, and they are the reins. And it is with these threads that he controls the horses. So rein generally means this feather-like or very fine threads that control the horses to stabilize the mobility of the chariot. Now I told you I'll be speaking on the invisible threads of the ecosystem or nature. What are these invisible threads? To now make you understand that, I like to now take you through a video, and I need your patience to now kindly concentrate on this video. Let me first of all ask, how many of you are aware of this lady, Miyoko Shidao Rigalo? How many of you are aware? Can you raise your hands? If none of you, perhaps this video will be very nice for you. The video is of this lady who now gave a program of this kind. Concentrate on her. She is now taking a feather from her plate, and she balances this feather on her fingers first. As I told you, for 4 minutes, I will not talk. She will be now talking to you, because I want you all to appreciate what is the invisible thread. You can see she is now focusing the feather on her finger. What does she do then? She takes a stick and puts this feather on that particular stick carefully in the middle, so that the feather is balanced on either side of the stick. And then she takes another stick from the pool carefully, and as you can see, she balances the first stick on the second stick. The feather is still in the tip. It is not going to fall like that. As I told, I need your patience for about 4 minutes. This video is very important. And she balanced that. Now you see she took a third stick, and she again is balancing the second stick on the third stick. It goes on and on. She now gets up. After getting up, she now takes the fourth stick, and the fourth stick is also now taken to balance the third stick. It goes on, And now I'll move the video bit further. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ತೀರಮ್ಮ. ಗೋ ಟು 4 minutes, ಅರೌಂಡ್ 4 minutes. ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಈ ಕಡೆ ಇಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ನು ಮುಂದೆ ಹೋಗಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲ. Around there click ಮಾಡಿ. Yes, that's fine. Yeah, you see so many sticks are already there. And ಇಲ್ಲ, ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಬರ್ಬೇಕು ಸರ್, ಅದು ಪ್ರೀವಿಯಸ್ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು. ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದರ ಮೇಲೆ ಮೊದಲು. And then you go to 4th minute. Yeah, let it be there. You see how many sticks she has balanced. Again, please note the feather is still in the tip of all those sticks. Are you with me? Yes. Now then what she does, she puts the whole of that on her head. You can see that? Look at her focus. Her whole focus is on the feather, not on those sticks. She puts it on her head and she balances the whole of that network. Yes, there she is. You don't want to clap to her? But the story doesn't end there. You see what she does next. She now takes another base of the whole of the stick. One ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಅಮ್ಮ. Right. Now you see, she's taking that final stick, makes it stand, and puts the whole of this network on that particular tip of that stick. Can you see that? Yes, she balanced it. And now, after finding that it is stable, I'm using the word stable, she comes out of that. You don't want to clap for her again? Story doesn't end there. The story is still there. She's very happy now because it's all balanced. But she goes back to that network and does something very interesting. People are clapping. She says, no, stop, don't clap for me now. And what she does, she goes to the feather and carefully taps the feather, and the feather falls off. The whole thing is collapsed. I think you should clap. Stop ಮಾಡಿ and stop there. Look at this. Wait. There are two things here. One is this stick and other is the feather. When she set up the whole of this network on that one stick, we all thought that the whole of this is balanced, is supported by the central stick, isn't it? But actually when she removed the feather, the whole system fell off. What is the meaning of that? In other words, let me now go and tell you what she did. She took the feather, she balanced it on the two fingers, then she balanced it on a particular stick, and then she balanced it on another stick. It went on and on. Eventually she balanced about 12 sticks like that, and that she now kept it on her head, and eventually on that, and when she now removed that feather, the whole thing collapsed. Now the question, what is maintaining this whole system? It is the central pole or the feather? Feather. The support may be there in the central stick, but the balance, the stability of the whole system is maintained by the feather. But we never thought a feather can maintain the stability of this entire complicated system. The feather there is the invisible thread of that whole system. Now the reason why I presented to you all this is to now make you understand that the entire system in this whole process is not the main stem. Main stem is only to give the support for that, and it is stabilized by the feather, which is not so obvious. We do not really give any importance to the feather at all. And then what? If the feather is that is maintaining the balance, if it is removed, the whole system collapses. Please underline this word. When that invisible feather is removed, the whole system collapses. And so, what is to be appreciated here is that, is that there are such invisible threads in our nature, which if we don't take care of, the entire nature would collapse. That is the point I wanted to drive. In other words, in the whole of the next 40 minutes or so, what I will show you is that in our nature, there are such invisible feathers, invisible threads, which if we don't care of, our entire nature and ecosystem would collapse. Next. Now, let me ask you this question. There is this tiger or lion, whatever the animal, and the man with the rifle there. What do you think we should do? We should allow this man to kill the tiger or lion? You say no. Why? They are killing animals. If you don't kill it, the animal will kill you. How many of you would agree with her that you should not kill the animal? Raise your hands. Okay. There are very few animal lovers here. Oh, there are many. But if we don't kill that animal, the animal will kill us. So what do we do? Generally, the kind of idea we are all holding is that if we want to survive, I should kill the animal, isn't it? But I am now particularly holding one secret here. What is the secret? Look at that now. What happens if that man kills the tiger? The tiger falls off. This man is standing on a precipice. He will also fall off, isn't it? And so, the best thing is not because of animal. Even for your own survival, you should not kill the animal. Because if you kill the animal, you also are also going to fall off. In this system, also, there is an invisible thread. What is the invisible thread? The invisible thread is that one which actually should now promote you to now not kill the animal, but perhaps love the animal so that both of you now live together. So the invisible element in this whole ecosystem between the man and human is compassion. If you now have the thread of compassion, the invisible element of compassion between humans and animals, then both of us can live together. Would you all agree with that? So this is exactly what I am going to show you, and this is just a metaphor for what I was trying to now tell you. When I gave this kind of argument to the students of middle school and high school, one student like this questioned me, "Sir, why should we bother about the whole nature? After all, our survival depends on some 100 plants. Wheat, rice, some dal, some fruits, right? Or some vegetables, all of them put together up some 100 plants. Add 100 more plants for our cloth and all that. If we save 200 plants in nature or in our world, the human beings will be very happy. Why should you now conserve anything more?" So also we now talk about water. We need to conserve nature for the sake of water. Conserve rivers and water streams and water bodies, that's enough. We will be now having water. And of oxygen, somehow make sure that our air is not polluted, we are happy. So why should we now bother about the whole of the nature? Now, I have a lesson to now tell you all as to why it is just not enough for us to conserve those 200 plants that help us or that make us survive, or the water or the oxygen. The story I am going to tell is of a lady called Che Maas from the University of Netherlands. She did her PhD on a very interesting subject. The subject is importance of greenness in our life. We all know greenness is important, but her interest was to see if this greenness is actually helping us in our health, in maintaining the health condition of the human beings. What did she do now? What did she do? As you know, in the West, in the winter, people are suffering with lot of morbidity. They are lonely, there is no sun, they are isolated, they are in the dark houses, heating themselves up with the heaters. So generally they are all isolated. As a result, they suffer with lot of the stress problems. Stress, depression, such morbidity problems. So they generally rush to the doctors. In the West, any doctor who gets a patient has to maintain the record of these patients. Where is she from or where is he from? What is the morbidity level that she is or he is suffering, etc. She goes to these doctors and gets the data on some 13,000 or 3,45,000 patients. What is the data she got? She got the data on what is the kind of problem they are suffering with, how many problems they are suffering with, and so she now took the data on their health problems. Plus, these doctors also maintain their address, their location from where they are coming. Then what she did was, she located that on the Google map, and around each of the patient, how much of the area around her in a circle of 1.5 square kilometers, how much of it is covered with the vegetation. Are you all with me? So if you have a house here, around that draw a circle of 1.5 kilometers on the Google and find out how much of that area is covered with vegetation. So you have two columns. One data, how much area around the house is vegetated, and the other, how much that lady who has gone from that house is suffering with the morbidity. Are you all with me? So she drew a relation between the two. What is that? What is the probability that you suffer with the morbidity, or how many problems you suffer with the amount of vegetation increasing around your house? And here is that this is a number of problems you are suffering with, or probability that you suffer with. What is the graph showing? As the greenness goes on increasing, problems go on decreasing. So more green around you, more happy you are, more healthy mentally you are, and I'm sure all of you are very happy because you are all covered with lot of vegetation around. You don't need to perhaps bother about. It is the people from Bengaluru like me who need to know bother about this. We don't have vegetation in Bengaluru, and so it is likely that we suffer with more of mental problems than all of you. So you don't want to give a big clap to yourself that you are happy. Now you see, it is true that nearer to nature we live, more mentally healthy we are. But why? Unfortunately, we still do not know. There is some unseen element here, there is some unseen feather here, there is some unseen link here that now provides us happiness from the nature. We still don't know what it is. When we don't know what it is, what is the way to now make sure that our next generation also continues to get the best mental health? Maintain the vegetation, maintain the whole system, so that those elements that we do not know are conserved with the nature, and the human health continues to now may be maintained. As a matter of fact, I will tell you another story as to how some elements of our nature, which we don't even perhaps give any importance at all, would now lead to the collapse of the civilizations of the humankind. The example or the story I am going to tell you is from a small island called Easter Island. Now, this Easter Island, visit it. It's about 3,100 kilometers away towards the west of South America. It's in an ocean. It's a small, tiny island in the ocean. And if you want to now look at Google, you can't even identify easily unless you know the XY coordinates and focus to that particular point. It is such a small island, almost a triangular structure, and it is an island without trees. I'll come to that bit later. But before that, why it is called Easter Island? In 1722, when British sailors went there, there must be a mistake that it is 1722. In 1722, when British sailors went there, they saw this island on the ocean. On the day, it was Easter. And on Easter day morning, they sighted, and so they called this island as Easter Island. And they found that it's an isolated island, very small, about 50 square kilometers. But what is important is the whole island was barren. There were no trees at all on the island. But there were some natives, about 200 natives. The question is, why am I now telling that there are no trees? It's perhaps natural that there may be an island without trees. But the reason why people began to wonder as to why there are no trees is because this island had something else that made us question as to how come there are no trees at all. What is that? Next, as you can see here, the island was full of stone statues. Some of you might have seen in Discover or National Geography, these are the stone statues built all around the island. The whole island was covered with this kind of stone statues. Why? It was believed that these stone statues ward away the ghosts and keep the whole island and the people there very safe. How far that is true is not very verified, but what is important is these stones are very, very heavy. Some of them are 85 tons, and the base on which they are put is something like 110 tons. Now, what is so? As I told you, there are no trees on this island. The scientists who went there found out where are these these statues were carved from or are prepared. Next slide. As you can see, the stone quarry of the island is somewhere here, and the statues are all along the border. And sometimes these huge statues have to be moved almost 16 kilometers, 18 kilometers. So heavy they are. Can you carry them on the hand, on their shoulders? You can't obviously carry them on your shoulders. So how do you think these statues were moved from the quarry to the border? Can anyone guess? ಇಲ್ಲ 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 ಅಯ್ಯೋ ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ ನನಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸಲ ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. Can anyone guess how they would have moved? How do we generally move huge stone slabs? Yeah? How do we move them? By rollers, isn't it? What rollers? The wood rollers are the stems of the trees. But there are no trees on this island. Remember the story, these stones have been now carved almost 600 to 1000 years back. And when they were carved, if at all you want to know what is the weight of the statue, an engineer went there, took the concrete cover of the whole of the face of this statue, just the face of the statue, and he found that you need heavy machinery like that you want to move the concrete face of this statue. If that is the case, if you want to move the whole statue, obviously you can't move. 1000 years back, there were no machinery of this kind. Obviously, they must have had some trees to now move them, but there are no trees. Were there trees on this island? What happened to the trees? A team of scientists landed there, archaeologists, historians, palynologists. Palynologists are those who study the pollen grains. And botanists, they all landed there and they started digging the whole of this place. What they found was very interesting. Now look at this column. This column, the yellow color indicates what is the proportion of the pollen grains that were there in the past to the present that belong to the trees. Are you all with me? As you can see, the whole of this block is yellow here, and gradually it is coming down, meaning once upon a time the whole of the island was full of trees, but now the trees are not there. And when did the human beings went there? At around 400 AD. Around 400 AD the first human beings went there, and when the human beings went there, the whole island was full of trees. But today the trees are not there. And these natives who went there are the people who have now carved these statues and they have moved. So they have used some trees. What are these trees? What happened to their whole population? It turned out, in other words, from a mostly tree-dominated island, the island became treeless island. In how many years? In about 1200 years. Then they also mapped the size of the population of the human beings on this island from the time they occupied the island. It turns out that from an initial population of just around 100 or 200, their population grew to almost thousands and fell down. The fall of the population from almost 7,000 to the present 200 seems to be also corresponding with the disappearance of the trees. Can you see that? So somehow the tree disappearance and the population loss seem to be highly now correlated. What happened? They took the pollen grains of the trees that were there, the nuts that the trees were producing, that the trees produced, and they found that on the left hand side on the top are the pollen grains and the nuts of the trees that were dominant once upon a time in the island. They took these pollen grains and nuts, went all around the world and searched for other trees that might resemble this pollen grain and the nuts. And they did find some trees. Where? In Chile. In Chile, there was a palm tree which exactly resembled those pollen grains and nuts, and that tree is called as Jubia chilensis. We do not know whether Jubia chilensis was there on this island or not, but Jubia type palm tree was there on this island, as you can see from the pollen grains and nuts. Also look at the stem of this tree. It is so fibrous, so circular, perfectly as if made to now roll the stones. Are you all with me? So in other words, it appears that this particular island was full of the Jubia trees, a palm tree whose stem was very light but hard enough to roll the stones. Perhaps those people used these trees to roll the stones. What happened to them? They started constructing the story on this island. It turned out that they were now using these trees not only for this cultural purpose of rolling the stones, but also to prepare canoes. Canoes means small boats to go onto the ocean. And nuts were not being eaten, but very little, even if they were eaten. So gradually, the trees have become extinct. Why did they become extinct? What happened to that? The whole story was constructed. Next slide. The story goes like this. When they dug the pits of the old kitchen that were maintained or that were there in the soil, they found that the most predominant bone they found was that of the dolphins. They took out the pits from where they had thrown the waste and they analyzed the pits and they found that these people were, to begin with, were eating dolphins. Where are the dolphins available? In the edge of the ocean or deep ocean? Deep ocean. So they have to go to the deep ocean. To go to the deep ocean, you need canoes. So they were preparing canoes out of this tree. And so they used to go to the deep ocean, hunt the dolphins, bring it back and eat. But gradually what happened? They went on cutting the huge trees for rolling the stones. As the huge trees were cut off from the island, the trees were not available to make the boats. So you can't go on to the ocean. When you can't go on to the ocean, you can't hunt the dolphin. The dolphin was the most important food item of their diet. Now dolphins disappeared from their food item. And in the process, what has happened? The population has grown up because dolphins were abundantly available. Now the food became a problem. Next slide. So without trees and without canoes, dolphins disappeared. What they did, they went on hunting the birds. They ate off almost 12 species of birds that were very native to that area. Birds disappeared. Then they turned to lizards. They went on eating lizards. Because there is no food. Population has grown up. Now they are landstuck there. They are now held up on the whole island. Lizards also became extinct. And when lizards also became extinct, because there was no food at all there, people began to fight among themselves as the competitors or rivals for the food. There were two kinds of people, long-ear people and short-ear people. It turns out that the long-ear people completely eliminated the short-ear people, and when the Britishers went there were only the long-ear people that survived, the 200 of them, and thus the whole civilization collapsed on this island because they exploited one particular tree called Jubia tree. Now, in other words, the civilization of this whole island was banta work aguttappa ilva ಇದು ಆನ್ ಇದೆಯಾ Okay. ಈಗ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿಷರಮ್ಮ. ಈ ಕಡೆ ಆನಲ್ವಾ ಕರೆಕ್ಟು. ಇಲ್ಲ ಬ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಇಲ್ಲ ಇರಲಿ ಬಿಡಿ, ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ವಿಲ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ ವಿತ್ ದಿಸ್. ಸೊ ದ ಹೋಲ್ civilization, in other words, collapsed because they finished or exploited one particular tree called jubia. Now please note that this jubia tree was not their food item, was not important for their survival, but it was only used for the cultural programs. They never thought that exploiting the jubia would lead to the collapse of the whole civilization. And in here, what is the invisible thread for the survival of the civilization? The jubia tree that was not at all their food item. In other words, jubia was not their food item. It was an insignificant element of the whole ecosystem. But they overexploited it and the civilization collapsed. Thus, survival of the entire human population may depend on any such invisible thread like jubia. And if we are not very careful about it, we are now likely to now find our own end and our own doom. In other words, the invisible thread here for the human survival is the jubia life. Note that we might be living on several of such invisible threads. It is our responsibility to now identify each of these threads and make sure that they are surviving. So one thread can sustain or kill the entire civilization. How much time I have? 25 minutes. Okay. I will perhaps skip this story because I will not have time to go through that. This is again an interesting story, but I will come to another story. Yeah. So in other words, we saw that compassion could be an invisible thread. Jubia tree could be an invisible thread. Interspecific, that's the example I wanted to show you. Interspecific interactions could also be the invisible thread. And I will show you now in the next example how the air, the wind also could be the invisible thread that sustains our ecosystem. The example that I am going to tell you is from the Alamelamma's curse. How many of you are aware of Alamelamma's curse? Very good. There are some at least. Wow. Gradually hands are rising. This side. Alamelamana Shapa Yajana Gotu. Gotilla. Okay. Unfortunately, I will not go into the details of the history of this Alamelamma story, but you all know, or some of you, those who don't know, would like to know that Alamelamma was a very pious lady. Mysore king troubled her for whatever the reason that she was apparently holding the wealth. And so army chased her. She became angry and she uttered 3 curses. Where did she utter 3 curses? In a place called Talakadu. Where is this Talakadu? That is Mysuru, and that is Kaveri river. And as you can see here, Talakadu is somewhere here in the turn of that river. She is supposed to have ran away from Mysore king's army, and she is supposed to have uttered 3 curses there. What are the 3 curses? Talakadu Maralagali, Malangi Maduvagali, Mysuru Makkalige, ಅರಸರಿಗೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಲ್ಲದಾಗಲಿ, ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆಲ್ಲ, ಮೈಸೂರು ಅರಸರಿಗೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಲ್ಲದಾಗಲಿ. ದೇ ಆರ್ ದ 3 curses. For those who don't know Kannada, the meaning of that is, let Talakadu become a land of sand, let the river at Malangi turn into a whirlpool, and let there be no heirs to the Mysore kings. Surprisingly, all these 3 curses have become true as people have observed. The whole of this area, Talakadu, is full of sand now. I can now give another talk on how all these 3 curses can be explained scientifically, but I will not go into. We will only take the first one. What is the first one? Let the land of Talakadu become sand. How is that this lady's curse led to the conversion of the whole of the city called Talakadu into land of sand? Talakadu was a very good capital of Hoysalas. It was an active capital. That means there was no sand there. Lot of temples are there. But suddenly the whole of Talakadu becomes a land of sand. How did it happen? Now people who believed in her curse believe that it is because of her curse. But is it really because of her curse? See the sand there. This is the Vijayanarayana temple, and the whole of the sand layer is almost to the level of the temple. So many millions of tons of sand is accumulated in Talakadu. Look at that. Temples are buried in sand. And that side, Malangi, in fact, is turned into a whirlpool. And people know that Mysore kings have some problems. So all the three curses of this lady have come true, and people have been wondering about why it happened. Now, how is that Talakadu became a land of sand? That is the one question we will pursue today. If you go into the history, it turns out that Alamelama is supposed to have uttered this curse in the year 1610. That's when Mysore king actually sent the army to now chase her for her wealth. So 1610, the occurrence, the curse has been uttered. And so if at all the sand is accumulated, it should be before or after that. After that. So some scientists went up recently and dug the soil there and started finding out since when this sand is getting accumulated there. And they found that from 1400 AD itself sand is getting accumulated. Are you all with me? That means how many years before the curse sand is begun to come there? 200 years before the curse, the sand is getting accumulated. Then why it was attributed to that lady? Someone like this wanted to now make his own name, that I am now constructing a good story with Alamayalama and the sand, and the story became very famous. Now when you actually reconstruct the story is very interesting as to why sand began to accumulate there. Now that is the river, the green line is the river. That is the place where Talakadu is. During 1336, when the Vijayanagara Empire started, there was a dam that was built across this river exactly at that point, as shown by the yellow line there. A dam was built. Why was the dam built? As I told you, Talakadu was here, and they wanted to get the water from the gravity by putting a dam there. And also, they wanted to now have a channel drawn for feeding the agriculture, the water to agriculture, and so they built the dam there. When you build a dam, water is held up, and in the downstream, the two sides of the river get exposed. As you all know, the river sides on either side will have a lot of sand on it. Now, in Talakadu, there is a very peculiar feature. What is that? They drew the channel like that. Water was held up. The two sides of the flanks of the river got exposed. Sand got exposed. In this place, there is a very peculiar phenomena of wind blowing from southwest to northeast, as shown by the arrows. Even now, in fact, people can record this direction. Heavy winds blowing from southwest to northeast. As a result, because the two flanks on either side of the river were exposed and the sand was there, sand began to be flown towards the Talakadu. In fact, a geologist has found out that a sand particle moves because of this wind on an average 10 feet in a day. 10 feet in a day. 1336 is the time when the dam has been built. So every day sand began to move. Fine sand began to move towards Talakadu, and the entire Talakadu was covered with sand. Purely because of this wind movement. As a result, people found that it is perhaps difficult to live there, and so they moved their whole city towards the other side of the canal. And today the Talakadu that you see there is on the other side of the canal. And if any of you have gone to Talakadu, you will see there are huge mountains and mountains of sand on that. Where is the evidence for all this story? The evidence is very simple. If at all the sand in Talakadu is blown by wind, that sand must be very fine or very coarse. Fine or coarse? Fine sand. Very, pudi munnu antaralla. In fact, if you go to Talakadu, there will be tens of trucks waiting along the Kaveri river to load the sand. But none of those trucks, those lorries will take the sand from Talakadu, because Talakadu sand is useless. Why? It is a very fine sand. No one wants it. People want the hard sand. As a matter of fact, what I did was, I went to this area And this is the river, and this is Talakadu. I collected the samples of sand from all these places and found out what is the percentage of the fine sand as we move from river to Talakadu. As you can see, because Talakadu has received more of the fine sand, the proportion of the fine sand was always more there. You see here, the coarse sand is more along the river, whereas the fine sand was more along Talakadu. The fine sand that is useless, that is not lifted by the mafia, sand mafia people, is abundantly available in Talakadu, which is all fine sand. Because it is fine, they don't need it. In other words, there are a number of such evidences to show that Talakadu became a land of sand because of the blow of the wind from southwest to northeast and because of the dam that was constructed. In other words, the collapse of the second capital of Hoysalas, that is Talakadu, and that became a land of sand, is because of this very peculiar feature of the wind blowing from southwest to northeast, and also because of the dam constructed. An invisible thread here is the flow of the wind, and an invisible thread was not realized by the then dam constructors. Vishveshwaraya has realized this, and as a matter of fact, now he has put, in 1940, Vishveshwaraya found out and he put a vegetation barrier there, and no more sand movement. Whatever the sand is there, and no more addition. Adding another piece of evidence to show that if you understand the invisible threads, you can solve the problems. Thus, the dam construction opened the sandbanks on either side. The southwesterly movement of the wind led to the sandification, so the city collapsed there. So what is the invisible thread here? The southwesterly wind and perhaps the construction of the dam. Like that, there are a number of such invisible threads. And thus, the Talakadu phenomena, which is attributed to Alamelamma, is not because of curse. It is an ecological disaster brought in by the humans themselves. So the invisible thread here is the wind blowing in the south towards northeast. I will end my story with the last example. This example is the story of a Siberian trekker. And I think this credit to this story goes to a Pakistani senator who told this story in United Nations in some occasion. Now I will repeat his story and to tell you how we should be careful in conserving our nature and how careful we should be in identifying those invisible threads. The story is very, very simple, but very, I would say, interesting in the sense of the lesson it provides us. You all know Siberia is a very cold country, full of ice. And if you are left in Siberia and asked which is north, which is south, without your mobile or compass, you can't say which is north, which is south, where is your house. What happened was, some trekkers went to Siberia. They were trekking from morning to evening. At around 5 o'clock or so, someone, one among those trekkers, felt that you should go for a nature call. And he now told the people, you be walking, I'll join you, because it's shameful to now pass the nature call in front of his colleagues. So he told them, please pass by, I will now go and come back. They all passed by. He was alone. He did his job and then he got up. In Siberia, ice and all that will be so severe that the footsteps of the people who walked there will disappear within minutes. So now he doesn't know where his colleagues have gone. And as I told, he don't know what the north, what the south and where to go. He was lost. He ran towards one side, couldn't find his colleagues, ran back, couldn't find his colleagues, ran everywhere, shouted, he could not find anyone at all. He was lost in Siberia. Now he has to survive. You know how Siberian cold is, minus 40 degrees. We can't survive even 12 degrees, plus 12 degrees or plus 10 degrees, minus 40 degrees. He was panicking. He ran here and there, climbed onto the top of a small peak and found that happily there was a small hut around in the nearby. He ran there with his rucksack and got in and he was very, very happy. Are you all with me? 8 o'clock in the night, he was very happy that he saved, and next day morning some rescue team will come and will save him. 10 o'clock in the night, he opened his bag and he ate something. 11:30, 12 o'clock in the night, he started feeling what? Cold. He started feeling cold. 1 o'clock in the night, cold was very severe. He couldn't really tolerate it all. What he did was, he had to heat himself up. He could have perhaps somehow survived, but he somehow felt, okay, let me increase my comfort level a bit more. Looked around and saw that the hut is actually having the walls made of the bamboo strips. What strips? Bamboo strips. He pulled out one bamboo strip and put fire to that, warmed himself up. Are you all with me? When you remove a strip from the wall, there is a hole created there. Okay? Plus, you are now used to little warming yourself up by the bamboo strip burning in front of you. So he is now used to little more comfort, but there is a hole in the wall. The gush of wind began to enter in there. Now he feels more uncomfortable, isn't it? If there is air condition and if you're brought out, you feel like running back into the air condition. If there is no air condition, you'll be happy. Like that for him it happened. He is used to warming up. Now he has warmed up, but there is cold gush air coming through. He couldn't tolerate. So what did he do? Remove another strip. Remove another strip and burn it. 2 o'clock in the night, he heated himself up. It went on till 2:30, 3 o'clock. No more wind is coming. He has to survive. Stripped one more, and he went on. By morning 4 o'clock, he burned the entire house around him and now open. Morning 4 o'clock is much more intolerable in cold than night 1 o'clock. Now the whole house is burnt out. There is no more bamboo strips there. And by the time next day morning the rescue team came, he was cold. He was dead with the cold. What is the invisible thread that could have survived him? Not removing the first bamboo strip. So the bamboo strip that he removed is the invisible thread that could have given him life the whole day, so that the rescue team could have actually saved him. We don't know how many such bamboo strips are there with us on which we are all surviving. If you don't identify those bamboo strips, if you don't identify those feathers that lady actually was maintaining the balance, if you don't identify the compassion that I told, if you don't identify the jubia tree that I told of the civilization of the Eastern land, we are also likely to now lead to the collapse of our entire ecosystem, and along with the ecosystem, all our life. So let us now take a oath here today that we need to now conserve these invisible threads. Because we don't know what the invisible threads are. Remember the example I told of the greenness. We don't know what greenness is actually helping us in our mental health. So what is the best way out? Hand over to our next generation the whole of the ecosystem as we have inherited today, without destroying anything in it. And in that context, I was so happy to see a series of vanas and the Shobhavana named after her mother, I guess. Her mother. Let us now give a big clap to those efforts. And hoping that all of you would also now conserve those invisible threads. I will thank you all. Thank you very much. Be happy to answer any questions or any doubts or any examples or additions that you would like to have.
Thank you for your analogy as well as the invisible thread. Now I know this question may be a little controversial question also, since you come from Kolar. Now there is the diversion of the water, which is the Netravati water, which is going from here to Kolar. So will it be the next invisible thread, is my question to you, sir.
To me, it's not controversial. Sometime during 2014 or so, I was made the president of the Sahitya function in Kolar district. I gave a talk. And my call to the entire Kolar family is, do not go to depend on the water from outside. The water that falls on your head is the only water on which you have the rights. Today you might go and take the water from outside, and day after tomorrow someone else would put a black to that, and you are still back to the same. And so develop strategies that would now help you to conserve the water that falls on your head as your own water and make use of it for your survival. Do not kill millions of invisible threats by getting the water from elsewhere. That is my lesson. So it's not controversy for me. Yeah, I am one among those who knows, yeah, propagate that idea. Any other? ನಾಚಿಕೆ ಪಟ್ಕೋಬೇಡಿ, ಯಾವುದೇ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಇರಲಿ ಕೇಳಿ. ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿಯಾದ್ರೂ ಕೇಳ್ಬೇಕಮ್ಮ ಒಂದೊಂದ್ಸಲ.
ನಮಸ್ತೆ ಸರ್.
ಎಸ್
ಸರ್.
ಹೇಳಮ್ಮ.
ಸರ್, ಒಂದು ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಡೌಟ್.
ಹೇಳಿಮ್ಮ.
ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಇನ್ವಿಸಿಬಲ್ ಥ್ರೆಡ್ ಈಸ್ ಇನ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಅರೌಂಡ್ ಅಸ್ ಅಂತ ಇದೆ. ಆದರೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡೋದು ಹೇಗೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಒಂದು ಬಿಗ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್. where will be this invisible thread? How we can identify that?
Okay. One big clap to her question. I told a big clap because I am now finding myself very happy that someone is triggered to ask the question of what are the invisible threads around me, and that to me is the success of my lecture. Would you all agree with me? I told to me. ಮಗಳೇ, ನಿನ್ನ ಹೆಸರೇನಮ್ಮ?
ಗಾಯತ್ರಿ ಶೆಣೈ ವೈ.
ಗಾಯತ್ರಿ, the fact that you have thought of asking is the first step, and now you perhaps can now investigate such invisible threats. What is important is to now keep ourselves aware that there are invisible threats around us, and they begin to open up on their own if you start thinking and working. Number one. Number two, if you really want to now study more invisible threats, I think you can do 100 PhDs by 100 students on that. It is important, and so you have opened out, in other words, an invitation to 100 PhD students to do their work. There is so much work to do in terms of discovering the invisible threads in our ecosystem. They are not readily visible, unfortunately. If you ask me, how do we identify, and if I had known, maybe I would have really become a Brahma. Unfortunately, no. It is not possible. Yeah. We should be careful, that's it. Any other questions?
Sir, I have two curiosity questions, sir.
Sure, madam. Yeah.
So we talk, like I was just writing an education for my son, and the topic was about, this. So we just thought, should development always come with destruction? Why should development always accompany? Sir, you talked about one bamboo stick being removed and how. Sir, I travel every day from Bengaluru to Mudbidri. Yes, we are very happy, highways are taking place and all that. But sir, practically also when we talk about it, the hill that I went few days ago, today I come under that hill. So, and you say we cannot do it. So, what is your say, sir?
No, I didn't say you cannot do it. Okay, good question, Amma. Good question. Again, a big clap for her. In fact, this question is more challenging to me than the question that he asked, though I am from Kolar. Challenging because, yes, she's right. We all want development. We all want development. But on the stage, I stand here and say we have to develop, identify the invisible threats and protect them and don't damage them. By that, I did not mean that we should not develop. I only mean that we have to now have a comprehensive understanding of the whole ecosystem before we meddle with it. And that is the reason why ecologists sometimes now insist on the government to now do what is called as a pre-assessment. So unless we now assess the consequences of the developmental activities we take, we should not perhaps. I would not say development should not happen at all. In fact, just yesterday I was with Venu in a hotel. I was talking. There are these so-called ecologists who shout like this, hydro projects beda, wind projects ಬೇಡ, ನಮಗೆ ಡ್ಯಾಮ್ಸ್ ಬೇಡ. ಅವ್ರು ಈ ಥರ ಕಾನ್ಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಹಾಲಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು 2 ನಿಮಿಷ ಅಥವಾ 5 ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಪವರ್ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಏನು ಸರ್ಕಾರನಪ್ಪ ಇದು ಪವರ್ ಕೊಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ದಾತು? ಪವರ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾ? ಬಟ್ ದಿ ಲೆಸನ್ ದಟ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ನೌ ಟ್ರೈನ್ ಟು ಸಜೆಸ್ಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದಿ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಟು ನೌ ಮೇಕ್ ಶ್ಯೂರ್ that there is no damage done to the environment to the extent that the civilization, the ecosystem collapses. I would have actually given another example, as I told, I didn't want to go to how sometimes interaction between small insects would no matter to the sustenance of the whole ecosystem. So we have to be carefulest. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
So you have said human have to save the animal to survive himself or something like that. So how does that human helps us as a threat for us? Sir, because most of us don't know that how does the animal helps as a threat to us to survive in our nature.
How does animal?
Helps us as a threat for us.
As I told you, I wish I had gone through another story that I cut off. That would have told you how a small insect would actually help us. Just to cut the long story short, you are from a village?
No, sir.
It's okay. If those of you are from village, you will see that there will be an arali katte in every village, correct? Ficus tree, okay? Ashvattaha sarvarikshanam devarshinam chanaradaha anta ಭಗವದ್ಗೀತೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಶ್ಲೋಕ ಇದೆ. ಹಾಗಂದ್ರೆ ಅಶ್ವತ್ಥ ಹೇಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ವೃಕ್ಷಗಳಲ್ಲೂ ಪ್ರಾಮುಖ್ಯವೋ ಹಾಗೆ ನಾನು ಅಂತ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊತಾನೆ. ಅಂದರೆ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಇಸ್ ಕಂಪೇರಿಂಗ್ ಹಿಮ್ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ವಿತ್ ಅಶ್ವತ್ಥ. ಅಶ್ವತ್ಥ ಇಸ್ ಸೋ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಎಲ್ಲ ಹಳ್ಳಿಗಳಲ್ಲೂ ಅರಳಿಕಟ್ಟೆ ಅಂತಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಅರಳಿ ಮರ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ. ಯಾಕೆ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ? ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಹೇಳೋದು ಅದರಿಂದ ಆಕ್ಸಿಜನ್ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ, ಮಕ್ಕಳಾಗದೆ ಅದರ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಸುತ್ತಾಕಿದ್ರೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳಾಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ನಂಬೇಡಿ, ಅವೆಲ್ಲ ಸುಳ್ಳು. ದಿ ರೀಸನ್ ಈಸ್ ದೀಸ್ ಅಶ್ವತ್ಥ ವೃಕ್ಷಾಸ್ ಆರ್ the ones that maintain the balance of the entire ecosystem. I will not go into the details. And the reason why that ficus maintains the ecosystem balance is because of a small insect, so small that you can put 2 or 3 of them in the tip of your writing pen. Such a small insect actually is pollinating the ficus. So that interaction between the plant and the insect is the one that maintains ecosystem. So there is small insect that is helping us. Okay? You know the dung beetles? Dung beetles anta kelidaralla, roll ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಡಂಗ್ನ. One of my colleague entomologists once told me, if there were no dung beetles, this entire area would have been full of dung where you can't even put your step. So the amount of help that the animals are doing us is enormous, Sama. We don't realize that, Astane. There is so much that they are doing. Not only in terms of the service, but also in terms of compassion, love. And some of you would like to know more of it. ಆ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳಿದ ಗಾಯತ್ರಿ ಇಂತ್ಕೊಮ್ಮ ನೀನು. ಯಾ, ನಿನ್ನ ಹೊಟ್ಟೆಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಮೈಕ್ರೋ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾ? 1.5 kg ಮೈಕ್ರೋ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ಸ್. There are more microorganisms in your stomach than all the diversity of genes put together given by your father and mother. The diversity of those organisms is much more than the diversity of the genes you have got. All of them are keeping you healthy. We don't see them. There is called microbiome ಅಂತ ಹೊಸ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಅದರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಓದಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನಂದೊಂದು ಹೊಸ ಕಾದಂಬರಿ ಇದೆ, ಹೊಕ್ಕಳ ಮೆದುಳು ಅಂತ. ಹೊಕ್ಕಳ ಮೆದುಳು. Our happiness, our stress, our sugar levels, diabetes, all of them are controlled by your microorganisms and not by you. So we don't know what all these animals and organisms are helping us. We think we are helping them. Sorry, we are surviving because of those people. Kutkolli. Any other questions? Yes. ಇನ್ನೊಂದಿದೆಯಮ್ಮ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ.
Sir, do you think we are also connected to the people around us with an invisible thread? If yes, then how do we justify it?
Wow. Your psychology teacher should answer this question than me. ಹೌದಲ್ಲಮ್ಮ? I am not a psychologist, but I do believe we are all connected. I don't know whether as a scientist she agrees or not. We do believe. ನಿಮಗೆ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಸರ್ವಪ್ರಿಯಾನಂದ ಅಂತ ಯಾರಮ್ಮ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದು? ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹೆಸರು ಅಸೀನ್. ಸರ್ವಪ್ರಿಯಾನಂದ ಅಂತ ಬರ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಯು ಗೋ ಟು ಗೂಗಲ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಲುಕ್ ಅಟ್ ಹಿಸ್ ವಿಡಿಯೋಸ್. he now talks about Dvaita, Advaita, and how our consciousness is there in all of us, and all these consciousness are linked together. Okay, so that is on a different plate altogether. Your question, I am sorry, I will not have answer. You can perhaps spend time with your teacher later. Okay, fine. Yeah, you had a question.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Vasha S of grade 10th A.
Okay.
Actually, I have a question, which is a combined version of the first question and the second question.
Okay.
It's like we studied in 10th grade that development goal of one person might not be a development goal of other. It may even be destructive for that person. So, like for example, if we construct a dam, it is developmental for us. But it might be an invisible thread to the tribal people,
Very
which will
true.
affect the tribal people.
Very true.
So, how do we identify those invisible threads, and what steps should we take?
My answer is exactly what I gave it to her, Amma. We need to study them in detail. So far, we are not studying. My talk is only making you to now think like this, that we need to study. Okay? There is no ready-made answer for this, unfortunately. We are all evolving in our level of ಜ್ಞಾನ ಅಂತೀವಲ್ಲ, ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಕೃತಿಯ ಬಗೆಗಿನ ಜ್ಞಾನದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವಿನ್ನೂ ವಿಕಾಸ ಹೊಂತಾನೇ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಈ ನಾನು ಕೊಟ್ಟ ಈ ಟಾಕು ಈಸ್ ಒನ್ ಅಲರ್ಟ್. ವಿ ನೀಡ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಲಿಟಲ್ ಮೋರ್ ಕೇರ್ಫುಲ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ಆಲ್ ದಿಸ್ ಅಂತ. ಓಕೆ, ಫೈನ್. Both are equally strong, equally good, and equally important. We'll come to that. Yeah. Avರೇನು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ? Yeah. Madam, I think she had the priority. Yeah.
Sir, the Gadgil was a great ecologist.
Enamma?
Gadgil, Madhava Gadgil. So even he got protest in a Munnar, eggs was been thrown. There are many consequences. My question is, how Gadgil report is better, I feel, than Kasturi Rangan report?
Okay. I was telling him on the way, I was also a member of this Gadgil team, Amma. Our whole purpose was this. We know we need development, but at least a part of our ecosystem should be free from the development, was our philosophy that drove. Unfortunately, we know what happened with our government. That's the reason I'm telling our government should also to be aware of it. Not only that, though out of context, I'll tell you, some organizations went against our panel, and I was particularly called as a CAA agent. I don't want any development in this area. I'm a CAA agent, and so Ganeshaiah is now doing all this. I have an organization called A-Tree. Fortunately or unfortunately, we had received funds from outside, so they linked up the two together, and so they started interpreting that I'm an anti-national, I don't want. So we know the whole politics behind it, Amma. I think perhaps I will talk to you when I get down from the stage and not on the stage. Yeah.
ನನ್ನ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ವಿವೇಕ್ ಸರ್ ಕೇಳಿದ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಗೆ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಈಗ ನಾಗರ ಪಂಚಮಿ ದಿನ ಕೆಲವರು ಹಾಲು ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ, ಅರಿಶಿನ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದು ಇನ್ವಿಸಿಬಲ್ ಥ್ರೆಡ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದಾ ನಮ್ಮ ಹಿರಿಯರ ಸಂಪ್ರದಾಯದ ಪ್ರಕಾರ?
Very true, Dhamma. I mean, this is again a very interesting question, maybe linked to that. The idea, let me now combine the two questions. Should we now laugh at our traditional practices? Because they may have an invisible thread recognized in that. About 15 days back, I gave a talk in Ladakh, exactly on traditional knowledge. Ruchika, I can come back and give a talk on that time or sometime later. Lot of these traditional practices are having a great significance, purpose, and rationale behind it. I wouldn't say all of them are, but lot of them. Just to give a small example, ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ಲು, ನಮ್ಮ ಹಳ್ಳಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಇತ್ತು. ಮೊಸರು, ಅನ್ನ, ಬೆಲ್ಲ ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ರಾಗಿ ಹೊಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರೇ ಗಿಡ ಹೂಗೆ ಬಂದಾಗ ಚೆಲ್ಲಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. ಅವರೇ ಗಿಡ ಹೂ ಬಿಡೋಕೆ ಬಂದಾಗ ಈ ಮೊಸರು, ಅನ್ನ ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಬೆಲ್ಲ ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಚೆಲ್ಲಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. We were all laughing at it. We discarded that also. Today no one practices. Ravi Gottu, there was a professor called Veeresh anta, entomologist. He discovered the reason behind it. ಅವರೇ ಗಿಡ ಹೂ ಬಿಡೋಕೆ ಬಂದಾಗ ಇದನ್ನು ಚೆಲ್ಲಿದ್ರೆ ಆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತವೆ. ಅವರೇ ಗಿಡ ಹೂ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕಾಯಿ ಆಗಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಪಾಡ್ ಬೋರರ್ ಅಂತ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಪಾಡ್ ಬೋರರ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಡಿವಾಸ್ಟೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಕ್ಯಾಟರ್ಪಿಲ್ಲರ್. These ants that come onto the field, they now start climbing onto the avare gida, and they now eat away the pod borer. The avare gida is free from the pest. So it has a reason, but we laughed it. ಏನಾಗಿದೆ ಅನ್ಫಾರ್ಚುನೇಟ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಟ್ರೆಡಿಷನಲ್ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸಸ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ನನ್ನಂಥ ದಡ್ಡರಿಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ದೇವ್ರ ಹೆಸರಲ್ಲಿ ಚೆಲ್ಲೋ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿಬಿಟ್ರು. ದಟ್ಸ್ ವೇರ್ ದ ರಿಲಿಜನ್ ಕಮ್ಸ್. ದೇವ್ರ ಹೆಸರಲ್ಲಿ ಚೆಲ್ಲೋ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಬರ್ತಪ್ಪ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಾವು ದೇವರು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ದೇವ್ರನ್ನ ಯಾಕೆ ಡಿಸ್ಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ, ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸಸ್ನು ಹಾಗೆ ಡಿಸ್ಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟಿವಿ. ಬಟ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾಪ್ಸ್ಯೂಲ್ಡ್ processes or capsule practices with a lot of rational and lot of purpose. But avennella ನಾವು ಅನಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. I have several such examples, perhaps will not go into. Answer to your question is, we have to now be very careful before we throw them out of the window. They may have lot of rational.
ಸರ್ ನಮಸ್ತೆ. ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಫಲವಸ್ತುಗಳ ಮರವನ್ನು ನೆಟ್ಟ ಮೇಲೆ, ಈಗ ಅಡಿಕೆ ಮರ, ತೆಂಗಿನ ಮರ, ಮಾವಿನ ಮರ ನೆಟ್ಟ ಮೇಲೆ ಅದು ಫಲ ಕೊಡದೇ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅದರ ಸುತ್ತ ಕೆಟ್ಟ ಶಬ್ದಗಳನ್ನು ಬೈಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಫಲ ಕೊಡ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಾದರೂ ಸೈಂಟಿಫಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಏನಾದರೂ ಇದೆ ಸರ್, ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಂಬಂಧ ಇದೆ?
ನಾನು ಬೆಳಿಗ್ಗೆ ತಾನೇ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ, ಒಂದು ಮರ ಸುತ್ತ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾವು ಬೈತಾ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಮರ ಸತ್ತೋಗುತ್ತಂತೆ, ಫಲ ಕೊಡ್ದಿರೋ ಸತ್ತೋಗ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಮಾಡಿರ್ಬೇಕು ನಮಗೆ. there is an Ethiopian say, if you don't hate it, if you don't like a tree, stand around it and scold it, it will die ಅಂತ. ಅದೊಂದು ಎಥಿಯೋಪಿಯನ್ ಇದಿದೆ. ಸೊ
ಸರ್, ನೀವು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಿ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಅದು ಐಸ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಟ್ರೀಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಾಯ್ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತ. ಬಟ್ ಅದೇನಕ್ಕೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಗ್ರೋ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ?
ಯಾಕೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಗ್ರೋ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ? ಬೀಜಗಳೇ ಇಲ್ವಲ್ಲಮ್ಮ.
ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಬಂದಾಗ ಅದು ಸೀಡ್ ಸಿಕ್ತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಿ.
ಎಲ್ಲ ಈಗ ಅರ್ಥವಾಗಿದೆ, ಈಗ ರೀಗ್ರೋ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವ್ರು ಹೋಗೋಷ್ರೊಳಗೆ ಏನಾಗಿತ್ತು, ದೊಡ್ಡ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಮರಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ರಲ್ಲ. ಹಣ್ಣು ಬಿಡೋದು ಯಾವ ಮರದಲ್ಲಿ? ದೊಡ್ಡ ಮರದಲ್ಲಿ. ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಮರದಲ್ಲಿ ಹಣ್ಣು ಬರಲ್ಲ. ದೊಡ್ಡ ಮರಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಯಾವ ನಟ್ಟು ಕೂಡ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಳೆದಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಡೆಸ್ಟ್ರಾಯ್ ಹೋಗಿತ್ತು. ಈಗ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬೆಳೀತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಬಟ್ ಆ ಮರ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಈಗ ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇರಲಿ, as I told you, the Jubia chilensis is a Chilean tree. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದಿತ್ತು ಅಂತ ನಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಟ್ರೈಂಗ್ ಟು ನಾವು ರೀಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ದಿ ವೆಜಿಟೇಷನ್ ದೇರ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಗ್ರೋ ದ ಟ್ರೀಸ್ ದೇರ್. ಈಗ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಮ್ಮ. ಈಗ ಬಿಡಿ, ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್ ಐಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ದೊಡ್ಡ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಹೋಟೆಲ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾವೆ. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ ಎ ಟೂರಿಸ್ಟ್ ಸೆಂಟರ್ ನಾವು.
ಸರ್, ಈಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಮನೆಯ ಪಕ್ಕದ ಗುಡ್ಡದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಬೆಳೆಸಿದ್ದಲ್ಲ, ಸಹಜವಾಗಿ ಬೆಳೆದ ಅನೇಕ ಗಿಡಗಳು, ವೈವಿಧ್ಯಮಯವಾದ ಗಿಡಗಳು ಸಹಜವಾಗಿ ಇವೆ, ತುಂಬ ವೈವಿಧ್ಯ. ಈಗ ಅದನ್ನು ಅಡಿಕೆ ತೋಟಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಇದನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿ ಒಂದೇ ಬೆಳೆ ಅಡಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಬೆಳೆಸಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಈಗ ನಮಗೆ ಮನಸ್ಸಿಗೆ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಇದು ತೊಂದರೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇವೆ ಅಂತೇಳಿ. ಈಗ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಪರ್ಯಾಯವಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಕಾಡಿನ ಗಿಡಗಳನ್ನು ನೆಟ್ಟರೆ ಅದು ಪರಿಹಾರ
ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಒಂದು ಸಮಾಧಾನಕರವಾದ ಬೆಳವಣಿಗೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಅದನ್ನ ಪರಿಹಾರ ಇವತ್ತು ಇರಲ್ಲ. ಏನೇನು ಹಾಳಾಗಿದೆಯೋ, ಅಥವಾ ನಾನು ನಿಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಬೈಬೇಕು ಅಂದರೆ ಏನೇನು ಹಾಳು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೋ ಈ ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ಒಂದು ಸಮಾಧಾನಕರವಾದ ಪರಿಹಾರ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಕಾಡಾಗಿಬಿಡೋದು. ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಟು ನಾವು ರಿಜುವನೇಟ್ ಎ ಫಾರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಡೂ ಎನಿಥಿಂಗ್ ಫೆನ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಲೀವ್ ಇಟ್ ಟು ಇಟ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್. ಅದು ಆಟೋಮೆಟಿಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಅದೇ ಬೆಳೆಯುತ್ತೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಯಾವ ಸೆಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೋ ಅವೇ ಬೆಳೀತವೆ. ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಡೂ ಟು ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟ್.
Sir, namaste. What is skin selection?
Wow.
Because we heard a lot of story about it. So can you just brief about it, sir?
Okay. Ruchika, you have to call me another time also. Skin selection is a very big concept. ಅಮ್ಮ ಸೂಕ್ಷ್ಮವಾಗಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಡ್ತೇನೆ. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಅಕ್ಕಂಗಿರೋ? 2 ಮಕ್ಕಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಓಕೆ 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 ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಹಾಗಾದರೆ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ಸ್ಪ್ರಿಂಗ್ ಕಾನ್ಫ್ಲಿಕ್ಟ್ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಕಿನ್ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ಗಿಂತ. ಎನಿವೆ, ನಿಮಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಅಕ್ಕಂಗಿರು ಇರಲ್ವಾ ನಿಮಗೆ? ತಮ್ಮಂದಿರು, ಹೌದಲ್ವಾ? ಈಗ ಒಂದು ಸಿಚುವೇಶನ್ ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. ಒಂದು ಹಡಗಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಯಾರು? ನಾನು, ನೀವು, ನಿಮ್ಮ ತಮ್ಮ, ಹೌದಾ? ಹಡಗು ತೂತಾಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ, ಆ ನದಿ ದಾಟಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಯಾರಾದರೂ ಒಬ್ಬರು ಸಾಯ್ಬೇಕು ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ. ನೀವು ಸಾಯ್ತೀರಾ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ತಮ್ಮನ ಸಾಯಿಸ್ತೀರಾ, ನನ್ನೇ ಎತ್ತಾಕ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀರಾ? ನನ್ನೇ ಎತ್ತಾಕ್ತಾರೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಕಿನ್ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಷನ್. ಶಿ ವಿಲ್ ನೌ ಲೈಕ್ ಟು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಅವರ್ ಬ್ರದರ್ ಸೇವ್ಡ್ ದ್ಯಾನ್ ಆನ್ ಅನ್ರಿಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಬ್ರದರ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಮೀ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಿನ್ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಷನ್. ನಮ್ಮ ಅರ್ಥವಾಯ್ತಲ್ಲ? ಸೆಲ್ಫಿಶ್ ನೀವು ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತಲ್ಲ? ನಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
So, as we have a young audience here,
Yeah.
I just want you to inform them regarding how, as you are from agriculture sciences, how agriculture or farming or self-farming becomes a fine thread or invisible thread for their future life?
Agriculture invisible thread. Invisible alla, very much visible thread.
Because all of them now run with the, like, into the cities, leaving the villages and all those things. So how exactly in the cities also they can think of something with respect to that particular kind?
This is a question that perhaps requires a lot of time to explain, Amma. How agriculture is the base for our human survival. The every grain that they eat in the hostel is all from agriculture. I think it's a question that perhaps requires a lot of time. You have put me into a real task. Huh? Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, there.
Good afternoon, sir. Can you hear? Sir, there was this scientist who did this experiment. Like, he kept a glass of rice, 3 separate glasses of rice, with water. He used to scold it every day, one glass. Another glass used to say good things. Another glass, he just left it with doing nothing, without touching it. The glass which he used to scold every day, it was ruined. The second thing was the one which he was telling, like, appreciating, taking care of, was absolutely fine. And the other one was again spoiled. Does it mean that ecosystem listens to us? Gargi.
Huh?
Gargi.
Gargi?
Yeah.
Gargi na? Gargi, you know what she's famous for? This kind of arguments. Please sit down. Yeah. This is a very interesting question, and I think all youngsters should really be bothered about it. But Gargi, you would like to know, be very careful about accepting this kind of experiments. Some of them are not repeatable, unfortunately. But the reason I am telling all of you should be aware of these questions is that there are these things that are emerging. You know, there are what are called touch genes. If you go and touch the plants every day, they grow better than not touching. Well, ಆದರೆ some of them unfortunately are not repeatable as it. So people are now still struggling to find out the truth behind it. So I cannot really say yes or no to your question, because the experiment itself is to be now very seriously tested. Okay? But I'm happy that you have read this kind of experiment. That itself is a great thing. Very big clap to her. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much again. Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for the enlightening and thought-provoking session. I think we now understanding how an invisible thread from the very nature is holding this entire ecosystem. Now it's time to hear from someone whose vision, guidance and encouragement continue to nurture platforms such as Rostrum. May I now invite Mr. Vivek Alva, Managing Trustee of Alva's Education Foundation, to share his thought with us. Sir, the stage is yours.
ವಾರ್ಡನ್ ಫೋಲೋರ್ಗೆ ಬಂದರು, ಬೇಗ ಬುಕ್ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಏನಾಯ್ತು? ವಾರ್ಡನ್ ಫ್ಲೋರ್ಗೆ ಬಂದರು, ಬೇಗ ಪುಸ್ತಕ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಓದು 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 ಅಂತ. ಒಂದು ಕೆಲವು ವಾಚ್ಮ್ಯಾನ್ಗಳು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಸರಿ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ನಾಳ್ದು ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆ ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್ ಬರ್ತದೆ. ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆ ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್ ಬರುವ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾರ್ಕು ಕಮ್ಮಿ. ಇನ್ವಿಸಿಬಲ್ ಥ್ರೆಡ್ ಏನಿದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ? ವಾಚ್ಮ್ಯಾನ್ಗಳು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ನಾವು ಇವತ್ತು ಗಮ್ಮತ್ ಮಾಡುವ, ಅದು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುದಿಲ್ಲ, ಇವರಿಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುದಿಲ್ಲ, ಬಿಡ್ಬಾರ್ರಿ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಯಾಕೆ. ನಾಳ್ದು ಫ್ಯೂಚರ್ ಸೆಕ್ಯೂರ್ ಆಗುದಿಲ್ಲ. ಇನ್ವಿಸಿಬಲ್ ಥ್ರೆಡ್ ಯಾರು? ಆ ಫ್ರೆಂಡು. So choose your friend very effectively. Now what I've observed in the entire program, I'll come to Ganeshaiah's session, but what I observed was all the questions which were asked were by school and PUC children. One big round of applause to all of them. Now what I'll tell you, one mantra to you all. If you all will keep your mind idle,
ಡ್ಯೂರಿಂಗ್ ಪಿ ಯು ಸಿ ಬೇಡ ನಾನು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳೋದು ಬೇಡ. ಈಗ ನೋಡಿ, ಈಗ ನನಗೆ ಒಂದು 10ನೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂಥ ಒಂದು ಯೋಚನೆ ಶಕ್ತಿ ಇದ್ದ ಹುಡುಗಿದ್ದಾಳಂತ ನಾನು ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಿದೆ. ನಾನಿದು ಹೇಳೋದು ಯಾಕೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಇಫ್ ಯು ಕೀಪ್ ಯುವರ್ ಮೈಂಡ್ ಬ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಕ್, ನಾಟ್ ಟೇಕ್ ಎನಿಥಿಂಗ್ ಎಂಗೇಜಿಂಗ್, ವಾಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ ಯು ನೋ? ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಲೈಕ್ ಸಮ್ ಚಿಲ್ಡ್ರನ್ ಟುಡೇ ಹೂ ಥಾಟ್, ರಜೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದೆ, ನಾವು ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದಿತ್ತು, ನಾವು ನಿನ್ನೆ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ಗೆ ಬಂದದ್ದು, ಇವತ್ತು ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಇವ್ರು ರಜೆ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಆಲ್ವಾಸ್ಗೆ ಬೈಯೋದು, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಕೆಲವು ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳು ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಇದು ಹಾಲಲ್ಲಿ. ನಾನು ಆವಾಗದಿಂದ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಐ ವಾಸ್ ವಾಚಿಂಗ್ ದ ಬಾಡಿ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ. ವೆನ್ ಐ ವಾಸ್ ಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಐ ವಾಸ್ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡಿಂಗ್, ಓಕೆ, some people have got outing today, but some people were made to sit in this session. My dear friends, such a thought-provoking session to all of us. Many a times we sit and think about the problem. Today, the entire session provoked each and every one of you to think and understand where it started from. Today, this Easter Island, Amelamma's curse, all these things, the Siberian trekker, everything is to provoke you that be curious, be like in the sense a part of things, don't sit behind, understand the problem is not where you're looking at, the problem may be somewhere else. My dear friends, today morning I was just telling him some of the programs that we've been doing, especially Swachhata program, and I told him I don't even want to call it Swachhata program. People pat our back and tell you, "Entha cleaning program neevella martidira anta." I never felt it was a Swachhata program because Swachhata never happened in the ground. All these years, I gave him an example in 2017 when we had cleared almost 25 tons of waste in a estuary. And you know, last time I was in Karkala, one session I was giving, suddenly some lady got up and told, "You istella cleaning ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಆಲ್ವಾಸ್ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಹತ್ರ ಅಷ್ಟೆಲ್ಲ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿದ್ದಿದೆ, ವಾಟ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಅಂತ." ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದೆ, ನಾನು ಕ್ಲೀನಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡುವವಲ್ಲ. ಇವತ್ತು ನೀವು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು ನಾವು ಈ ಸ್ವಚ್ಛತಾ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಗಳು ಯಾಕೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೇವೆ ಅಂತ. ಪ್ರತಿ ಬಾರಿ 200 ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಯಾರು ಬರ್ತಾರೆ, they are not the same students. Every time it's a new students. Swachhata is not happening in the ground. Swachhata is happening in your mind. Today, my dear friends, since past almost now decade and 2 years, I think so 12 years, we've been working on some of the areas in our entire region, especially where the river as well as the sea is meeting. Now what we are identifying over there is, and I was telling him that also, the tirtha which you get from temple and the alcohol which is in the bar are all ending up in the same place itself. Now my dear friends, you think, today you may be telling, I am not a part of this problem. I'm sure you love Lays. I'm sure you love chocolates. Who is eating the chocolate? The fishes are eating over there and throwing it out in this thing. It is y'all are eating. Don't think like in the sense we are the problem is somebody else. The problem is us. So my dear friends, many a times I know you all like nice dresses. ಒಂದೊಂದು ಕೆಲವು ಮನೆಗೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ I can find 10 pairs of shoes over there. One thing you understand, you know, at times I hear people saying plastic annu ban ಮಾಡಿ. I like feel stupid people ಅಂತ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ನನಗೆ. Plastic ban ಮಾಡಿ. Plastic was the biggest invention of mankind. How can you ban something like this? It's really people who are not a part of system, who don't understand system, will talk this language. I tell reduce, reuse, but not ban something. My dear friends, today we had an option to either delay this flight, like maybe tomorrow, ask sir like whether tomorrow can you come, because the students today suddenly we got a holiday. But somewhere down the line, ma'am took this initiative. She told, today I was like Rudra Avatara was there. I was very tough to people and all. You gave me a statement today morning that about, I told like many times people think if we talk, they think politics is the interest. It's not the interest. He told heroes and leaders. Today we need heroes like her in the system who can shake the system. End of the day, the reason is so that children get direction. My dear friends, everybody is speaking about Gen Z. Right? Gen Z. And yesterday I spoke this in your session also. You know, like definitely we see a sense of energy. What energy these children have got. We can make out. The same energy was not there back in our times. And I can see a huge energy in this Gen Z. And the next Alpha, which is coming up right now. We can see, even like in the sense, the creativity. The kind of slogans the people were holding in Jantar Mantar, I was seeing creativeness in that. Let us speak bad, good later on. Confidence to what level in the sense, even, you know, now namma tandeyavar jote matadlikke ನಾವು ಹೆದರ್ತೀವಿ ಈಗಲೂ ಕೂಡ. I'm telling you, confidence to what extent in the sense, even with Prime Minister Modi, you'll ask, what is your skincare routine? To that extent, the Generation Z has got confidence. To that extent, the creativeness is there. But the same students, if they ask questions that what is NEET, full form of NEET, what is full form of CBSE, at times they're failing to answer. My dear friends, you know, there are a lot of people with vested interests. You know, some time back, I used to tell, I don't have vested interest. Now I feel I also have vested interest. What vested interest? End of the day, children, if they get a right direction. Today, please understand, we are blessed to be, you know, when we talk about our nature, you know, you are in the most, what's it called? The best nature God can give you. One side you have the sea, the ocean. The other side you have got the Western Ghats. We are talking about preserving Taj Mahal and all. You know, please understand, it is more ancient than your Himalayas also, this Western Ghats. It's almost 158 million years back. And don't you feel we have to take a responsibility of being a part of it, not saving it. Saving is a very big word for you. I'm telling you, the moment we are going to destroy, God also will see there, whatever God you believe in. If nature you believe in, nature is the God. That itself will teach a lesson to the mankind. My dear friends, I see children, ಇಷ್ಟೆಲ್ಲ ಇಂಥ ಭಾಷಣಗಳು ವಾಪಸ್ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು. ಯಾಕೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನಾನೀಗ ನೋಡ್ತೇನೆ, ಈಗ ನೀವು ಆಚೆ ಶಿವಮೊಗ್ಗ ಕಡೆ ಹೋಗಿ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗುವಾಗ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಟೇಲ್ಡ್ ಮ್ಯಾಕಾಕ್, ಆಸ್ ವೆಲ್ ಆಸ್ ಆಲ್ ಯುವರ್ ದ ಸ್ಪೀಸೀಸ್, ದ ಗ್ರೇ, ಏನು ಸರ್, ಗ್ರೇ ಮಂಕೀಸ್ ಅವ್ರ ಏನದಕ್ಕೆ ಕರೆಯೋದು, line-tailed macaque as well as this thing. Interbreeding, all these things coming near the road. Why they are coming near the road? Who are the people who are feeding this? My dear friends, if you really are so concerned about nature, plant some trees over there, nice fruit trees over there. You know, why am I putting this across is, you know, a long time back, I spoke to one minister. And he was one of the topmost ministers of a country. I asked him about Netravati, maybe almost 10 years back. And that minister told me, Vivek, don't you feel the water is going waste, the water is going to the ocean and the sea through these estuaries, what we are talking about. I felt, my God, this fellow should be given 10 standard session. You know, that much I felt these people are not understanding what is nature. They're talking that nature, the water is going off from this thing and it's getting wasted. Today, if at all, he may be consuming some nice fishes also. It is also because of the fresh water going into this thing. Today, why fresh water is required to go to the ocean also, any science people can tell. I remember when Mr. T.V. Ramchandra was discredited for his work when he spoke passionately about Western Ghats. Dear friends, why am I putting all these things to you is because you are the future, you are the youth. Many of you may be thinking, non commerce students, non naturopathy students, non degree student, non BA student, non technology student. So today, end of the day, we have created these small silos of education. Today, none of us can function because we are creating these small silos, a science silo, a commerce silo, a art silo. What I request you all is to understand the purpose of education, to understand why these clubs are required. Many of you, when you came here, your faces were very frowning faces. The only smiling face I saw was sir when we were entering, because he was, I think so, his student. And I was seeing the kind of spark in his face. When I was coming inside, I know somebody told you to clap. Some people like Ardha Manas. And the older students also watch these younger ones. You all were also young one point of time. And end of the day, what stops you thinking, being curious? What stops you? Why can't you just stop those thoughts which are coming in your mind when you're sitting in this hall? I was seeing children who were like Kumbhakarna, they were sleeping over there. One madam came, she was waking somebody up. And I thought like, at least I disturb martella, ಬೇರೆಯವರಿಗೆ disturb ಮಾಡ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. My concept is simple. ಮಲಗಿದ್ರೆ ಮಲಗಲಿ ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಅವ್ರು ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರಿಗೆ ಡಿಸ್ಟರ್ಬ್ ಮಾಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗೆ ನಾನು ಹಿಂದೆ ಒಂದು ಹುಡುಗಿ ಈಗಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ಇದ್ದಾಳೆ, ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾಳೆ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಅವಳನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ನಾನು ಗಮನಿಸಿದ್ದೆ. ಒಂದು 2-3 ಜನರನ್ನು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡಿಸ್ತಿದ್ದಾಳೆ. ನಾನು ಇದು ಹೇಳುದು ಯಾಕೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ನೀವು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಇವತ್ತು ಇಂಥ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಗಳು ನಿಮಗೆ ನಸೀಬ್. ಯಾಕೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಈ ವಿಚಾರ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡುವ ಶಕ್ತಿ ಉಳ್ಳ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರುಗಳಿಗೆ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಇಂಥ ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ಸ್ನವರ ವಿಚಾರಗಳು ನಿಮಗೆ ಮುಟ್ಟಬೇಕು, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಯೋಚನಾ ಶಕ್ತಿ ಬೆಳಿಬೇಕು. ಆ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಈ ರೋಸ್ಟ್ರಮ್. ಈಗ ರೋಸ್ಟ್ರಮ್ ಅನ್ನು ಕೇವಲ ಒಂದು 200 ಜನರ ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಬಟ್ ಟುಡೇ ಈಸ್ ಅ ಬ್ರಿಲಿಯಂಟ್ ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ ಇನ್ ಕನ್ನಡ. But today he intentionally spoke in English because before this itself, we understood the crowd. I've got Manipuris over there. I've got Assam student over there. I've got a Madhya Pradesh student sitting over here. And 100% there are people who have to understand this. And that concern is being taken. My dear friends, at times when you have things in your hand, because you see this again, the rest of the people who are asking question were the teachers. ಅವ್ರಿಗೇನು ಕೆಲಸ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಲ್ಲ. Because at that moment, they realize the importance of what is learning. What is stopping this curiosity? Why do you block yourself in silos? Today, please see our chairman bubbling with energy. Anybody will tell he is 74-year-old? Don't tell him I told his age. 74-year-old youth, I can say. And so many things is developed. Still having the kind of curiosity. You see, every program he sits. Every cultural program of our students he sits. Dear friends, one way I'm also happy that such curious minds are there between you all. I'm happy there is discipline within you. At times, if at all, it's only cursing is going within, not outside, I can make out. At places, they don't even let people speak. There is some colleges that have decided I'm not going to step in. I'm not going to step in anta. Because the kind of students, it's not because like in the sense these buildings, yesterday I was telling some of these children, the buildings are not these brands. The brand is you. Tomorrow you are going to be something bigger. And we want you to be bigger. We want you to contribute to the society. We want you to be rooted. If chairman is doing a cultural program, yesterday there was my CAs who were telling, can we take this off for this year? No, it cannot be. It's a part of Alvas. Today, my dear friends, there are a lot of things good in Alvas. There are a lot of things that you consider bad in Alvas. You consider bad in Alvas. End of the day, nobody has pulled you and told, come be a part of this. I know there are colleges in the sense there is enjoyment, full party enjoyment anta. ನಂಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟೇ, ನಂಗೆ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ನಿಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಕ್ಯಾಶುವಲ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಾನು ಮೊನ್ನೆ ಕೂಡ ಒಬ್ಬರನ್ನು ಗಮನಿಸಿದ್ದೆ, ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ನಮ್ಮ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ಗೆ ಬಂದರೆ 100% ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್. ನಾನು 100% ಅನ್ನೇ ನಂಬೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ನಾನು ಈ ಮಾತು ಯಾಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೇನೆ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ, ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಗೋಲ್ಡನ್ ಪೀರಿಯಡ್, ಗೋಲ್ಡನ್ ಲೈಫ್ ಏನಿದೆ, ನಾವು ಎಷ್ಟು ಮನಸ್ಸು ಮಾಡಿದರೂ ಕೂಡ ನನಗೆ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ವಾಪಸ್ ಹೋಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಐ ಕೆನಾಟ್ ಗೋ ಟು PUC. I would love to come back to school because the kind of energy what is there in that is not there further. My dear friends, it's all up to you how you retain this energy. That's the reason program like this has been done. Beautiful analogy Ganeshaiah sir has put across. And you know, he is filled with knowledge. He can speak countless hours, even if you want in history. Vijayanagara Empire ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾನು ಇವತ್ತು ಕೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೆ. And some of the facts that we didn't know. He was talking about the Aryan invasion. He was talking about the caste system also. He was talking different things that we were discussing. Dear friends, what I want to put across is, choose your friends very carefully. Choose your friends very carefully. Choose the people around you very rightly. You know, if you are having people who think lesser, they'll never let you grow. This is how you surround yourself with. He was giving me some credit. I told, I don't take the credit. My son, I'll take credit, but not my credit, because this is the environment I've been grown in. Enjoy this environment, because this 4 years or 2 years in Alvas, you can complain all the time. But also, if you see the things which are happening and the differences, the invisible thread in what Dr. Mohan Alva is making sure the students have got this kind of thought process, I'm telling you, after some years, you'll realize, better realize right now. So how much possible, consume. Don't limit yourself. Maximum what you can do in your rooms is what? Maximum if you go outside is what? Think about it. At least over here, you have a session, you have a very knowledgeable person who has got years and years of knowledge in terms of agriculture, in terms of history. I'm telling you, if at all he asks one more hour, ನನಗೆ ಹೆದರಿಕೆ ಆಗ್ತಿತ್ತು. 45 ನಿಮಿಷ, ನಾನು ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ 25 ನಿಮಿಷ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದೆ. ನನಗೆ ಹೆದರಿಕೆ ಏನಿತ್ತು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಎಲ್ಲಿಯಾದ್ರೂ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಆ ಬುದ್ಧಿ ತೋರಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ, ಎಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಡೇ ನಿಮಗೆ ಕೂಡ ಒಂದು ಲಿಮಿಟ್ ಉಂಟು. ಆ ಲಿಮಿಟ್ ಅನ್ನು ನಮಗೆ ಪಾಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಸಕ್ತಿ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಇವತ್ತು ನಾನು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳು ಕೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೆ, ನೈಸ್ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್. ಸಿ ಐಮ್ ಟೆಲಿಂಗ್ ಯು, ದ ಕ್ಯೂರಿಯಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಶುಡ್ ಬಿ ದೇರ್. ಎವ್ರಿ ಸೆಷನ್ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳಿ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಡೌಟ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನು ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ನೋ ಸ್ಟುಪಿಡ್ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್. ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ರಿಮೆಂಬರ್ ದಟ್. ದೇರ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಬಿ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟುಪಿಡ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್ಸ್, but not stupid questions. Questions should be there within every person. Whichever course you are taking, whichever life you are living, how much ever older you are, see that small children, how much questions they ask. ನಾನು ಕೆಲವು ಬಾರಿ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ, ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ನಿಮಗೆ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳಬೇಡಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಆ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳುವ ಒಂದು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟಿವಿಟಿಯೇ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕೈಯಿಂದ ಹೋಗಿದೆ. ಸೊ ಆ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೇನೆ, ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳೋದು ಕೂಡ one creativeness. So build on that. Ask question, be passionate, be current. And from my bottom of my heart, I thank you, Ganeshaiah sir. Beautiful session. I'm telling you, because this was well needed for children, for them to think beyond when a problem happens, because problem ayyo tension anta ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. Where it is starting from. I know I've taken you a little deeper, but ultimately it is basically for you to understand the importance of this session. I would look forward for future sessions also. Maybe smaller groups, larger groups, especially your history you would want to listen. ಆ ಹೊತ್ತಿಗೆ ನಿನ್ನ ಕ್ಯಾಮರಾ ಒಂದು ಬಿಡುವುದಿಲ್ಲ ಆಯ್ತಾ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಬಾಂಬ್ ಹೊಡಿಬೇಡಿ. ಹಾಗೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಕೂಡ ಯಾವುದೇ ಅಂತ ನನಗೆ ಭಾರಿ ಆಸಕ್ತಿ ಇತ್ತು, ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಮುಂದೆ ಒಂದು ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ ವಿಜಯನಗರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಎನಿ ಟೈಮ್. And he's got beautiful sessions. I would want you to ask sir again next time in a different avatar, especially in terms of history, which is very passionate about. And I thank you for coming to our campus, sir. I thank all of you fine gentlemen for coming to our campus too. All the best. Thank you and all.
Thank you, sir, for those meaningful and encouraging words. Today, we have not merely listened to a speaker. We have had the privilege of experiencing a perspective. It is now a moment to express our gratitude to distinguished personality who has enriched his gathering with his knowledge, experience and insights. As a token of our respect and appreciation, I request our managing trustee, Mr. Vivek Alva, to present a token of gratitude from Alva Education Foundation to our esteemed chief guest, Dr. K.N. Ganeshaiah. May I have a warm round of applause for him. We also have a small token of gratitude to Dr. Ravi Shankar. I request Mr. Vivek Alva to present the gift. Have a round of applause. Thank you, sir. We have now come to the end of the session. I now request Ms. Kathy to deliver vote of thanks.
A very good afternoon to one and all present here. Every successful program may have a stage, a spotlight, and a schedule, but behind it stands a team of people whose efforts often remain unseen. Just like the invisible threads of an ecosystem, every contribution today has been connected to the success of this gathering. With immense gratitude, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to everyone who has made this occasion meaningful. First and foremost, I would like to thank Mr. Vivek Alva, Managing Trustee, Alva's Education Foundation, for his continuous encouragement and support throughout the Rostrum events. Our heartfelt thanks to our esteemed chief guest, Dr. K.N. Ganeshaiah, for expressing his valuable knowledge and making today's Rostrum a truly memorable one. I would also like to extend my sincere gratitude to Professor Dr. K.V. Ravi Shankar for gracing this occasion with his presence. I extend my sincere thanks to Dr. Deepa Kotari, President of the Rostrum Speakers Club, for her continuous leadership and encouragement. A special word of thanks to Mrs. Ruchika Roshan, our program coordinator, for efforts in making this program a success. My sincere thanks to all our distinguished guests of the days, members of teaching and non-teaching staff, and each and every student who has been a part of today's gathering. I would also like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Alva's journalism team for being here and for capturing the special moments of today's event. I would also like to extend my heartfelt thanks to the Rostrum members for their active participation.
Principal Scientist, CPCRI.
I also express my sincere thanks to Dr. Maheshwarappa, CPCRI, Principal Kasargod.
Principal Scientist of Kasargod.
If Rostrum is a journey of ideas, then you are the reason that the journey continues. Once again, thank you all for your presence, support, and encouragement, and may you have all a wonderful day ahead. I request the to come on the dais for a group pic.